So I think I co-created this YouTube channel back in maybe 2011 or 2012, in the early years of YouTube. And in all these years, I've not done any carp specific videos. Sure, I've had grass carp on the surface on the canal, which is awesome. I've caught some wild carp, some river carp, but never proper carp fishing style. And since I've joined a carp syndicate water, I figured it was definitely about time to give it a proper good go and try and get a couple fish to the bank. So I'm not much of a carp expert, but I know fish, right? And also I've got a big family, I've got 5 kids. So I can't be going out like the normal carp boys and having full day sessions, full night sessions, 24-hour sessions, 48-hour sessions. I'm gonna have a few 3 to 4 hour sessions, which sounds like a terrible idea. But what it means is I can save on the amount of tackle I need to bring. I'm not gonna be filling in swims. What we're gonna do is basically try to fish little pockets of bait, find out where the fish are, maybe from the night before, go out to that area in the morning, put out there little PVA bag, little cluster of bait, inline lead, and hope for a quick bite. We're after 1 or 2 bites per morning in the hopes of maybe getting some really nice carp to the bank. So over the course of the next few sessions, the setups that I'm using are both identical. They're sort of like travel rods, only 10 foot, the buck section extends. These are the rods I actually use for my pike fishing. They're only 2¼ pound test curve, but that's only because I only ever do close quarter fishing, and that's the same with this session. I'm only going to be fishing down the margins, like I've mentioned, only 3 or 4 hours at a time, and both these rigs are identical. So the main line I've got on these reels is 15 pound. This lake is very weedy. I need to be able to pull the fish out from the snags and out from the weeds. And down to the bottom end, I've really kept this so simple. This is like early 2000s carp fishing, inline lead, very simple. And got some rubber tube in either side of that just to make it anti-tangle so it doesn't get tangled up on the cast. Very short hook length on there. Only about 4 or 5 inch hook length. We want it so that as soon as the fish picks it up, they're instantly in contact with the lead. And I've just got a very small split shot below the hook. And the bait that is going to be going on there is popped up corn. I've got some popped up sweet corn, some fake corn, and some real corn that's going to be going onto the hair. I brought no boilies with me whatsoever. I can probably count on my hand the amount of instances I've used boilies in my fishing. If I was obviously fishing maybe a 24-hour session, I might want them to keep the smaller fish at bay. But since we're only fishing 3 or 4 hours at a time, if the little fish pick up my sweet corn, I'm not really bothered, if I'm honest with you. So that is my setup. And on the end of this, I'm going to actually have a PVA bag mixed with pellets, ground bait, sweet corn. We'll talk about that in a minute and exactly why I'm going to do that. But basically I just want one little patch of bait for the carp to come across, pick it up, and after 1 bite on each rod per session, that is it. Let's get cracked on. We need to try and find some fish, and hopefully we'll put some to the bank over the next few sessions. It was time for session 1, and I'd only got a few hours to fish this morning, so location was going to be key. I chose an area where the lake actually shallows up, so the main lake is only about 7 foot deep all over, but there's a back bay where it shallows up to about 3 foot deep, and these carp would have to travel up a shelf, up onto a shallow ridge, and then down into the back bay if they wanted the sun later on. So I knew this would be a perfect ambush point for 1 or 2 bites during this session. I decided to fish with quite large PVA bags, and inside this was a mixture of very dry ground bait, sweet corn and pellets. Now all I did was mix all this into basically ground bait straight out of the bag. That way it would dehydrate the sweet corn, making it PVA friendly. Not only that, but the dry ground bait meant that the PVA bag would fall very slowly through the water, so that if it did happen to land on some weed, it wouldn't go crashing straight through, it would sort of gently land on top, or at least that was my theory behind it anyway. And that was it. The rods were positioned. One just on the shelf as it starts to rise up to the back bay, and one of them directly in the back bay. And I knew it would only be a matter of time before we tripped up a carp on its way to the shallow area. What a run! Oh. It's just a weed, I think. Yeah, it's come through a hell of a lot of weed. What a run, my God. Absolutely screamed off. To say absolutely screamed off like a mad one, it's still fighting hard now. It is not a big fish at all. I don't think the 30-pounder weed helps. Oh, it's come off! No! No, he's done me off in all this weed. Oh, look at all the weed that's on it. Oh, he's just managed to twist the hook off in all of that. No! Look. That's what he's twisted me off in, look. All that blanket weed, and the hook was completely buried in it. There's a little piece of fake sweet corn. I had a bit of fake sweet corn, a couple of pieces of real sweet corn. Can't get much more old school, simple tactics than that. Got a screaming run, but unfortunately, he outsmarted me. Oh, and he's completely blunted my hook. Need a new hook on there now. It was great knowing that my rig had worked, so I did exactly the same. Got another PBA bag right out to that clear patch, just on the shelf. And according to my big camera, it was only 6 minutes in the water before this happened. What a screaming run though, same rod yet again, just before it gets to it, well, just on the shelf as it rises up and gets shallow. Once again, I don't think it's a very big fish. I actually think this might be smaller than the one we just lost. Yeah, I think it could be. That rod has been, honestly, been cast back out about 10 minutes, if that. Can't believe how quickly that's gone off. Especially in the shallow water. This is definitely a smaller fish than the last one, which is a bit gutting. Yeah, the first one I lost was probably a scraper double. This one isn't. This is a pasty. But it gave me a great run, I'm not going to lie. If he stays on, that would also be fantastic. Pristine looking fish. Even if it is only a babby. I don't want my net full of weed. There you go, boy. Yeah, definitely smaller than the one we lost. Lovely common. Nailed as well on that corn. Right, now after a bit of a fight in the cradle, I think he's finally ready to be taken a look at. Proper hard scrap on this one. The one before it was bigger, did me off in the weed unfortunately, exactly the same rod. It's only been in the water 10 minutes after recasting, after re-rigging, and it fired off again. I need to get this rod cast out to the exact same spot. It's just on a bit of a shelf where it starts to rise up to a shallow bay. Obviously the fish like feeding on it. No monsters, and I think most of you carp guys would have unhooked this one in the net, wouldn't you, and let it go. But I am well happy, and I think it's a good introduction into my start of carp fishing. I'm a professional carp angler now, you know. And that concluded session number 1. Only fished for about 3.5 hours, and it was in the last half an hour when both those fish tried to rip my rod from the rest. It was time for my next attempt. This time I was going to fish late evening, just the last few hours before darkness. This time I chose a little back bay. It was an area where the wind was blowing right down into, a nice little corner, and there was a clear patch right in the middle. I knew this would be a perfect place to get a rig put out. I wouldn't even need to cast out overarm, just underarm flick down the margins. Absolutely perfect. Hoping for, once again, just 1 or 2 fish passing through to give me a bite or two, and maybe even get one on the bank. Fish on. Fish on. It's gone right underneath the snags. I don't think there's a fish on anymore. I can't feel any pulling whatsoever. While that take was rather unexpected, the rig had only been in the water about 15 minutes and it ripped off. And that's the problem with fishing snaggy areas. It had gone straight under the tree on the opposite bank, through a load of roots and managed to throw the hook. This time I managed to get to the rod in time. I was connected to the fish, but just like in that first session, it had gone under so much blanket weed, and that is the problem with this lake. It is covered in blanket weed on the bottom. Once again, another fish lost. So that was gutting, and I was starting to doubt my rigs. Out of nowhere, the right hand rod just ripped off. It was actually a really slow take. I don't know why I'm saying ripped off. It was just a couple of bleeps, but I was right next to it. I've honestly just recast this rod. I've just lost a fish on it. Knelt down and just saw the rod going off, ticking away. It can't be very big. I don't think it's a carp actually. If it is, it's a very small one. Might be it is a tench. I was about to say it might be a tench. Oh. I was fishing right up against a tree and tench love the snags almost as much as carp, if not more. Hey, I like tench. I know there'd be a lot of carp anglers watching this going, oh no, not a tench. Oh, I love me tench. Absolutely love them, I do. Well, it may not be the carp that we're after this session, but that has more than made up for those couple of carp runs I've just missed. Missed a couple of steaming runs. One of them snagged me up in the trees on the opposite bank. The next one just came off in the weed. While I was playing it, bringing it in, all of a sudden the line went slack. And then right rod started tapping, the one right up against the tree. Obviously it was a tench. God, this really makes me want to get out and do some tench fishing. I am not a carp fisherman, so I'm actually happier to catch this than I am the carp, if I'm honest. Absolutely awesome. We'll get him rested and get him back. Or her rather, it's a female fish. Well, tench are one of my favourite species of fish to catch, so I'm not just saying this, but I would genuinely rather have caught that tench than a 20-pound carp. But this is supposed to be a carp fishing session, and that's where we ended it there. Just before darkness, it was time to come out again, possibly for an early morning session or two, in the hope of getting one of those bigger carp to stay on the hook and into the net. This morning I decided to try a different area of the lake. I found with the drone some clear patches round the side of the island that looked absolutely perfect for feeding carp. And I wasted no time in getting a PVA bag out to that spot. Now I did change something slightly this session, and that was the hook bait. I was now using a tiger nut flavoured bright white dumbbell pop-up. And this was for one reason and one reason only. I was hoping to get some underwater footage in this area. I'd got the camera set up, but unfortunately I'd propped it a little bit too high so you couldn't see the lake bed. And as you can tell from this footage, the fish obviously were there and feeding on that patch of bait. But thankfully, almost out of nowhere, a little perch showed up and decided to help me out. It battered the camera, rubbing itself against it, probably trying to get rid of parasites, and actually positioned the camera perfectly so you could see my popped up dumbbell on the bottom, right square in front of the camera. It was great to see that a good shoal of fish had moved in. No monsters, but they were clearly feeding heavily on the bait that was put in there.
mostly ground bait and 6mm pellets. But this highlights one of the things I've always emphasised in my fishing, whether that's barbel fishing or tench fishing or indeed carp fishing, to try and match your hook bait to the bait that you're feeding as best as possible. Because as you can tell, these carp are quite happy to feed on the little pellets, but when it comes to that dumbbell pop-up, they are avoiding it. And when the fish do come into contact with it and it moves slightly, they know something's not right and they spook away. But surely there's only so long a carp can resist that bait.
Well, this isn't exactly a monster from the deep, but it is a beautiful common carp. And the best part about it is, I'm pretty sure I've got it taking the hook bait under the water as well. I just changed over to a more brightly coloured bait because it was in front of the camera. I wanted the camera to be able to pick it up. It was a dumbbell wafter, white. And this has just given me a screaming run after about an hour and a half of it being in the water. Lovely fish, probably a low double. Let's get him straight back.
It was obviously great getting a carp to the bank, but to get it on the underwater camera as well was just the icing on top of the cake. But now the sun was coming up and it was getting warmer. I'd thrown in a few pieces of bread onto the surface and noticed carp were rising and cruising around on the top, and it was time to probably reel those rods in and to start stalking them. We'd got a few more hours left of fishing and now could be the real time to get some numbers and maybe even get a real big one. Before I'd even left the spot to go and explore, I noticed there was a couple of carp feeding right down the margin and I just had to get a cast in there with some sinking bread.
There's a carp in this weed down in the edge. It's like a good sized common carp. Let's see if I can place the bread right on his nose. Go on, we got it, we got it. I didn't even think it had taken it. It had taken it. Yes. Bit of sinking bread down in the weed right in the margins. There's two carp that kept coming around this margin. I kept trying to put bread on the nose and they weren't interested. So I just left it. It was sort of sat on top of some weed underneath the water, about 2 foot beneath the surface. Had one go down, which was the biggest one, unfortunately, first. I struck, didn't get it. Cast straight back out again and the small one came down and took it. I don't know how big it is, but it's gone through loads of weed. You can see this weed is absolutely horrendous. That's why I'm fishing 15 pounds straight through. Oh, looks like a lovely mirror carp. Come on. I think he's come into the net. He did. Yes. Oh, it's a lovely fish as well. To say that's the smaller one out of the two. I'm really gutted I didn't get that bigger one. I think that bigger one would have been a 20 pounder. This one isn't though. Looks like it could be a double figure fish though. Now I know in the carp fishing world, this wouldn't be classed as a very big fish really, but I don't think anybody can deny that is an absolute stunner. Look at the scales on that. Absolutely beautiful, dark mirror carp. I actually thought it was a common in the water. I just saw the shape swimming through and it was so dark I was convinced it was a chestnut coloured common, but no, an absolutely beautiful mirror carp. And I can't believe this was the smallest one out of the two that went for the bread. The first one I missed it, I struck, didn't get hooked up, it shot off. That fish must have easily been 20 pound. This one, probably not so much, but like I say, absolutely perfect mint quality fish. Just gonna get some spray on the corner of his mouth where the hook hold went in, and then we'll let it go. Absolutely awesome.
With time running out, I decided to send the drone up and fly it around the lake, just to try and find out where most of these carp were hanging out, where I'd have the highest chance of being able to maybe pick one up off the surface on a bit of crust. And it seemed like down the bottom end of the lake, it was a shallow area, loads of weed and algae on the surface, and those carp seemed to really like being in amongst that weed. I knew that would be the best place to go and try and get one on the top.
Just see him take some bread on the surface. Come on. Perfect, I've landed it right where a piece just got taken. My bread is down here in the margin, and there's a big fish slurping underneath the algae just as it goes out towards the open water. All I need is that fish to come underneath the algae out this side and it'll come into contact with my bread. Oh, there's one right next to my bread. It's eating the algae about 4 inches next to my bread. Oh, it's coming for the bread. It's got it. It's slurping the bread. We got it. Yeah, oh my God. Oh my God. That one looked half decent as well. Just gone underneath every bit of blanket weed down this margin. Just tightening the clutch a little just so we can give it a bit of backbone. Oh, he's a common carp. That's nice. Contrast to the mirror that we just caught. Going right down this margin. Come on. I think he might be a bit bigger as well. There we go, come on. That is definitely bigger than the mirror carp, I think. I don't know if he's in or not. Looks like a decent fish though. Oh. Yes, yes, we got him. There's a lot of weed in there, so I don't know how big he is. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah, that could be the biggest one of my trip. That's the biggest one of the journey so far. Oh, look at the size of that. That is easily a common carp over 25 pound. Gonna have to get an official weight on it in a minute before we release her, but we'll get her well rested first. I've been trying to get carp on the bottom. I only managed the best one about 8 pounds, 6, 7, 8 pound. Changed the stalking tactics and we've caught this absolute beauty. I'm not going to take any pictures with her, we'll just take some screenshots. We need to get her back as quick as possible. It's getting pretty warm right now. Absolutely awesome. Well, I got in the water to release a little mirror carp because it was a small fish, and I've got in the water to release this one because it's a big one. And definitely a new personal best. I've weighed it in the net, but I need to deduct the net off and I'll tell you exactly what it is after we've released her. Had her rest in now, so she's definitely ready and raring to go. Just take one last look at her before we do. Would you look at that? Absolutely stunning common carp. Let's get her straight back. See you later, big girl. Catch you again when you're a 30. It's official. When I weighed the fish in the net, he's not in there right now, don't worry. When I weighed the fish in the net, it was 29 pound 9, and the net is 2 pound 9, which means that fish was exactly £27, which has just smashed a personal best for me. I know it's not a big carp in the carping world, but I'm not a carp angler, and that's the first 20 pounder I think I've caught, and it's a good one as well. Well guys, what a way to end the session. I've really enjoyed myself over these last few days, fishing early mornings and late evenings, trying to target these carp. I have genuinely enjoyed myself, and the way they scream off on that alarm, it does trigger a little something inside you. It releases that feel-good energy. But it's just a shame that I can only get small fish on the ledger rigs. And when I go back to doing what I do best, fishing really simple, just a hook on the line and a bit of bread, we go and catch ourselves a brand new personal best carp at £27 on the dot, which in the grand scheme of things, for a lot of big carp anglers out there, they'd probably unhook that one and release it without even getting a picture. But to me, that's a massive fish. And actually, it's the biggest fish I think I've ever caught. I don't normally target big fish, do I? So that's absolutely incredible. I hope you've enjoyed. I'm going to do something I've never done before. I'm going to leave a pinned comment, right? And if that pinned comment gets 300 likes, then we'll come out and do some more carp fishing in the future. If it gets any less than 300 likes, so let's say it gets 299 likes, I'll never make a dedicated carp fishing video again. How do you feel about that? Catch you guys later. Thanks for watching.